free. It has to be good. And it doesn't mean you don't come across conflict. It doesn't mean there aren't some people in your life that are not working out for you. You do edits, but you have to be very proactive. Sorcery is a very proactive act.
Yes.
It's not this old school stuff where you spend 6 months memorizing a ritual, and hope to see a light and maybe something will happen. It's not that. If it's not working in real time, it's not working. And, people said to me, oh, it takes a lot of guts to produce materials that you say work in real time. It's not guts, it's science. I just report what I observe, and I create language and structure and strategy so that people can access what I've observed. That's really all it is.
I think you have a sedation. Sorry, I think you have a sedation now, right, on your website about proving sorcery in real time and letting people experience that.
Yeah, and I've moved it to warm weather because so many people have had a problem with this winter and all kinds of stuff. So I think they're April, May, and June now. But yeah, and I will guarantee it. You take that process, you get the series, you get them all. You can't get one, you have to get them all. And you go through it, and I can guarantee you the outcome will change where you stand. It just will, because we're just adjusting the 6 of these rituals adjust the space right outside of yourself. It's like under the hat. That's what they do. That's the small space I'm working in with all 6 of these rituals. So anybody who becomes part of it is only working in there. So if you thought about it, and if you're working around with the space just around yourself, say, for example, for a minute that space was made out of iron, or that space was made out of mirrored material, or that space was just pure oxygen, and you change what's in that space, and you change what can access you and what you can access. Mm-hmm. That's the way they work. It's very straightforward. And in those sedations, and I call them sedations, they're really like rituals done online, and there's a space between me and the individuals doing it. And instead of seeing that space as a burden, I see that space as a way for the information to transverse back and forth. And in that space, we just develop a new relationship with choice and with selfishness and allow. And then you can create the environment you desire to live in. Sometimes it helps you edit. Sometimes it helps you gain. But it does one or the other, because that's really the only 2 options there are.
Right.
So, Chris, you 2 are invited if you want to be part of that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
100%.
And I would love to.
I'd be jumping at that chance. And while we're thinking about that right now, we do have to take a break for station identification.
Sure.
Sorry, Kat. We're a little bit late for that. It is 10:47. You are listening to Hidden World with Chris Carr, usually Clarissa Vasquez, and our awesome special guest, Sorceress Cagliastro. This is WBHMDB.com, Paranormal Experience Radio. Thank you for hanging on.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Thank you for listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. The time is 45 minutes after the hour.
Hi, you're listening to Hidden World on WBHMDB.com, Paranormal Experience Radio. And this is Chris Carr and usually Clarissa Vasquez, but this is Seraphine Hurley with our special guest tonight, Sorceress Cagliastro. And we're talking about sorcery and everything Sorceress Cagliastro. So, Chris, did you have any other things to talk with Sorceress about?
Well, I'll throw an oddball one out at you. Okay, so this is typically a paranormal talk station. A lot of our listeners are, ghost hunters and investigators and that kind of thing, and are dealing with spirits from that point of view, which is different from the point of view that you and I usually deal with. Uh-huh. But when you encounter a situation where, say, a discarnate is becoming a problem with a family, what would be your first recommendation for changing that situation?
Well, if it's becoming a problem like in their space, it's a little different than becoming a problem in their mind. So when we're talking about, I just actually worked with a family whose house was kind of riddled with the former residents of that location, not necessarily that house. This is not something that is religious. And I didn't really intend to talk much about religion tonight, but it's important. Nobody who comes to your house who wants to throw a doctrine at this thing is going to make a difference. I'm the person they call 3 priests later. And the reason I say that is because the individual is there for a reason. If you have a home invasion, they're coming in for something.
Yep.
If you have somebody who's staying, all right, thank you. Somebody's staying in your house, you can't get rid of them, there's a reason.
Yep.
What we have to do is have to sit with someone, like myself, who can ask them why they're there. And then we operate from that information. Sometimes they're there because they perceive that to be their house, so we make negotiations. Sometimes they're there because they want to be around life, and they've discovered that the life in this house gives them pleasure. Sometimes they're there because they have a memory or relationship with some sort of trauma or something negative, and they are reliving it in their own loop. In that case, the sorcery I'm going to do is on the disincarnate, and then they will leave. So there are just as many reasons for them to be there as there is for somebody who's come into your home and made a presence that is either overstayed or wasn't invited to begin with. Mm-hmm. The way to dissuade disincarnate from interacting with the family is to find out why they're there. And then agreements are made or energy is changed. Things are done based on that, just like you would any time that somebody is in your life inappropriately. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the clearest answer to that, Chris.
Yeah, really treating them like a person, not as if they
because
were
they are people. It's different. It's different than what I refer to as demons, which is an amalgam of energy, and has taken a residency in a place. And if you want to answer that, I'll be happy to answer that as well.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah,
let's talk a little bit about demons and what demons really are.
Yeah, well, demons are an amalgam of energy coming from a conflict or a relationship with chaos. They simply come out of that. They are not people. They don't have much ability to think through processes, although those that absorb a lot of communication become ascending demons. A lot of those can really think through things like Nine can for me and like Sheeg can for me.
Right.
So, but most of them are sort of a capsule of tortured anxiety, tension, chaos, this kind of thing. And they can be removed in a very different way because it's like removing an energy in the house. Like, for example, if you had a gas leak, you'd address the gas leak. It's similar to that. However, there's a lot of anger and chaos involved in this. So you have to work with somebody who knows how to contain that thing and pull it out. So that's a very different thing. It's not negotiation. It's a capture and a removal. And then it's up to the practitioner whether or not they want to relocate that thing or work to suppress it until it is no longer existing. Very different. Completely different.
On the subject of demons, I'd like to let you know the sedation I took with you about meeting your attending demons was one of the best that I've taken.
Wow, great. Thank you.
If you offer that again for our listeners, boy, that is one to jump on because that was impressive as hell, so to speak.
Well, Well,
but not as evil as that. Truly.
Most of the previous sedations are available on my site as recordings. So if someone's interested in that, they can go to the recordings library on my site, which is Cagliastro, theironring.com, and they can go there and rent rent the recordings, and they have access to them for a while. I'm not great at ending their time to listen to them so rapidly. If you rent it for a couple of days, I'm likely to leave it there on your Dropbox for a couple of weeks so you can really enjoy it. Because what's the point otherwise if you can't totally grasp the information? So most of those are available. And the wealth sedation is actually a recording that's also available on Amazon.
Oh, yeah. I think
stuff.
I worked on that a bit with you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Very good stuff.
Mm-hmm. So all the books are available on Amazon, and if you just put Sorceress Cagliastro in with an A, not an O, you will be inundated with more than 40.
Where would you have somebody start? To the listener who doesn't know you, who's just tuned into the station, maybe knows us from other things, and says, all right, this woman's interesting. Where do I begin?
Well, the simplest way to do it is to get the beginner book. And it's right there. It's called The Science of Sorcery. It says beginner book on it. And the reason that it's a beginner book is not because any of the information is more difficult or simpler than others. It's the presentation. You have to understand the language of this work so that when you read further and you study further, you know what I mean when I say allow. You know what I mean when I say control and these kinds of things. Or the language is very important, as it is when studying any kind of discipline. So I would say start there. And I redid, I have a relatively new Blood Sorcery Bible. It's Blood Sorcery Bible 1.5. You don't need the first one anymore. 1.5 is the expanded edition. If you don't have any of them, you can skip the first one and go right to 1.5. It's all in there, and it's been profoundly expanded with much more language, much more information. So that one is quite useful. And then, as you go through those books.
Way bigger.
What?
I just want to say I have that book myself. I have both, of course. And, I've been doing this a while, and I love 1.5. What a book that is. It's so worth it.
Thank you.
Spend the money, get it.
Yeah. I was really excited about that one because I think it filled in the gaps between 1 and 2. I think it really gave people a good place to go for the language. So that one I would suggest. And then, if you want to work with demons, and there's 26 demons revisited, if you feel like you are more interested in protection, there's one for that. There's something for divination for practitioners, or how to operate in that without going crazy. Because sometimes the most complicated part of being a person who does divination is dealing with the people who need the divination, the clients. So,
oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I know. When I wrote that book, people said to me, "Oh, it's kind of cold." I said, "Really? Are you a person who does divination for a living? Because if you are, you're grateful." Because there are clients can be judgmental, and they can expect you to do things and see things that are not necessarily available right now to do or see. So that's a useful one. If you get more involved in directional sorcery, there's 16 rooms, the black houses. That will really take you to a place of specific action inside of directional sorcery. So the other thing you could do is the beginner class is now available in recordings. I taught the beginner class 11 times. It's a 6-month series. And this last one, I did in such a way where I felt that if I made it available for recordings, people would get the full essence of the work at the beginner level. It's 6 months of classes. That's on my website also. So anywhere that you want to start, those are the best places to start. You can also jump in and take a sedation. I mean, I suggest people try the Proving of Sorcery, which is now going to be in the warmer months. Had been moved a couple of times, but that's very useful because you'll see it and feel it, and you'll know it works. It has to work. It has to be provable. I know that was sort of a long form answer, Chris, but I think that's really what.
No, it's a wonderful format. Yeah, right. If you can prove it, you can see it. And, for some of us that may happen at different times in our lives, or maybe it's never happened at all, but you have some sort of belief. That's a great place to start. I would also say with your protection classes, very untypical of any protection type magic. I